I'm part of a junior detective gang in a small town with no monsters, so we decided to make our own. When I was 12, I formed a detective gang, just like Scooby-Doo. Stella Howitt was my Daphne. I found her searching the principal's office for her confiscated phone. Ben Callows was my Fred, who at first refused because Scooby-Doo was a kid's show, but he did join for the free cookies. I found my Velma, who was, ironically, looking for her glasses. Lucy Bridget, the quiet girl who was born to be my Velma. In the summer, we trailed around our town looking for mysteries. But our town was boring. There were no monsters or thieves or soul-sucking demons. All of our cases turned out to be missing cats. So, inside our local diner, drinking my favorite milkshake, I proposed a plan. We were going to make our own mysteries. Stella stomped on Mrs. Mason's flowers, and Ben threw mud pies at people's cars. But people still weren't taking us seriously. I met up with the others at our usual place. "We need to do something really scary," I announced. Ben stood up, waving a stick. "Well, why don't we pretend to be kidnapped?" he said, pulling the hood of his sweatshirt over his hair. "We can go missing for like a week, and then when our parents are really scared, we can turn up and tell them we escaped a kidnapping." His lips split into a grin. "And then we solve our own kidnapping," he laughed, lounging on the tire swing. "You're stupid," Stella chased him teasingly, Lucy laughing. Ben's idea was stupid. We went back to solving missing cat cases, and I started watching more adult crime shows, which were way better than Scooby-Doo. My favorite was the case of the intestine killer, who scooped out the intestines of 3 girls and then mailed parts of them to their loved ones. 3 weeks later, I was covered in blood, screaming, crawling through dirt. All my friends were dead. Stella, half buried in dirt. I tried to save Lucy, sobbing into her chest. Ben was dragged away by their killer, his body thrown into the lake. The hiker who found me immediately called the police, and once I was in my mother's arms, I sobbed into her shoulders. When Ben's body was pulled from the town lake, I was in denial. Lucy and Stella were found a day later, and I sat next to my mother, choking through my traumatic experience. When Mom was gone, I was still sobbing, stabbing at my eyes with my fingernails to make more tears. "I miss them so much," I whispered, slowly ducking under my bed and pulling out a plastic box. Resting it on my bed, I pulled out a long, slithering red sausage, ripped it in 2, and slid it into an envelope. I licked the envelope shut, sniffling, writing with my favorite pen. "Mr. and Mrs. Callows." "Don't worry, guys," I said, smiling at the envelope in my hand. "I will find your killer." Do not take a bus alone at late night in New York. This is the story sent by Lauren, a sophomore at New York University. Last year, when Lauren first enrolled in school, she commuted from a house in Elmhurst, New York. One day, while studying for midterms late into the night, she ended up staying past midnight. Lauren took the Q53 bus home. As she sat on the bus, listening to music, an elderly woman sitting next to her suddenly shouted, "Hey, give me my wallet!" Taken aback by the abrupt shout, Lauren was startled when the woman grabbed her collar and accused her of stealing her wallet. She insisted she hadn't, but the woman ignored her protests, insisting that they go to the police station together. "Driver, pull over at the next stop," she said, thinking that calling 911 would resolve the misunderstanding. Lauren agreed to get off with her. When they reached the next stop, the woman got off. Just as Lauren was about to follow her, the bus suddenly started moving, with Lauren trying desperately to get the driver to open the door. The driver's response was unexpected. "Haven't you noticed the pickup truck following us since earlier?" Terrified, Lauren looked back and saw the elderly woman and several burly guys standing together, glaring menacingly at the bus. The elderly woman and those guys were teamed up to kidnap a girl going home alone late at night. Back to the 90s. Clarissa loved the 90s. She felt blessed to grow up in the decade of Springer and Stern. Well, as a 95 birth, she missed half of it, and her memories of the then present were foggy, but Her passion for the first half-decade of her life was fiercer than her fellow New Englanders' support for the Sox and Pats. The superfan was always down for Dunkaroos and a Surge. Her phone was full of Blink, Britney and Christina, and she thought Ocarina of Time was clearly better than the new Zelda games. Anyone who thought different would have to talk to the hand. That's why when Time announced they were ready to take human guinea pigs, she quickly signed up. Anywhere, any place, any time. Despite the CEO's assurance, the monkey subjects were happily amongst their bygone brethren. Many were skeptical. Not Clarissa. Strapping on the loose-fitting apparatus, the Lissa Francophile prepared to venture back to the days of TRL and SNCC, back when nothing bad ever happened. To the 90s, she demanded, knowing the machine would guide her well. The nausea and freakish stretching would soon be worth it. Unfortunately for Clarissa, the folk of Old Salem didn't enjoy Hocus Pocus as much as the interloper, who popped out of thin air. Sewer Gator. Man, the things we believed as kids. Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, pro wrestling being real. Gosh, we were dumb. Well, I wasn't. I always had a precocious bullcrap filter. In fact, I remember wanting to bop all my stupid buddies who were spouting some crap about secret Pokemon on the playground. There was one rumor from my childhood that really had me annoyed though. Alligators. In New York. Shut up.
It's true,
Stevie DeLugio swore up and down.
My brother seen it last night when he was coming back from playing basketball.
Old Steve-O claimed that the so-called beast stared a hole in his brother's soul, evisceration only prevented by the small grate that held its primeval prisoner.
One of them albinos,
the story went. Big Bro Benny said the damn thing's dopey eyes followed him the whole time with an almost friendly grin. Benny wasn't a trusted source. He was the guy who told us that thing about Marilyn Manson's ribs. The grate in question was one we saw every day in our walk to school. Never had I ever seen a critter of any kind popping out of it. Refusing to accept he was just a freaking idiot, Stevie figured the reptile must be nocturnal. I didn't know or care about some big dumb fake lizard sleeping ritual, but Stevie was adamant we check it out that evening. What the hell, I had nothing better to do. Stealing some cod his old man had left over from the fish market, Stevie picked me up and we walked the half-mile to the grate. It was already 10:15, and the opening was as empty as Yankee Stadium after a 3-hour rain delay. Full of juvenile bravado, little Stevie ducked into the grate, bait in hand, until his tiny kicking legs were the only sign of him. It took no time at all to prove what he should have already known. There ain't no such thing as sewer gators. Now sewer crocs, on the other hand. Yesterday, I was murdered. Her body was discovered by her neighbor, an elderly man who, in a stroke of horrible luck, came to ask her for some assistance. The coroner would later confirm she had died a mere few hours before. There was no sign of a struggle, no sign of a break-in, nothing that pointed to any malevolence. But then we noticed her phone, propped up right across from her, and found that damn recording in which a beautiful, yet exhausted, girl took a seat and started talking. I wish I'd never seen it. Yesterday, I was murdered. Any other person could have spoken those words and I'd have instantly dismissed them as absolutely insane. But not her. For a second, she glanced at her smartwatch when it buzzed, taking a deep breath as she did. He told me his name was Jack Riley, though in hindsight I couldn't tell you whether or not that was a lie. What I do know is that he's a surgeon, a neurosurgeon. The same little routine repeated. Her watch buzzed, and other than her taking a nervous breath, nothing happened. I wondered if Jack was stalking her, drowning her in messages. We'd had a few dates. He had been a perfect gentleman throughout all of it. The only thing he absolutely hated was people taking things for granted, he told me. I adored his grateful attitude. Again, a buzz. A sigh. Yesterday we met up at his. I was complaining about work, and something just changed in him. Tears were welling up in her eyes. I'm not sure what happened after that, but I woke up in my own apartment, tube stuck in my throat. which she removed the moment our eyes met. Once more, her lips were turning slightly blue, her skin growing paler. Yet, she simply kept talking through her sobs. Apparently there's a part in the brain, medulla or something, that makes our body work for us. It keeps our heart beating, our blood flowing, and so on, without having to think about it. One of the many things we hold for granted. And then, he told me he found a way to tweak it. Didn't even have to crack open my skull. No way to fix it either. He told me I should have been more grateful. Another buzz, and with it my anxiety grew. There was not a touch of pink left in her. If I leave, my parents are next. I've tried to keep going for as long as I could, but I'm exhausted. So, this is goodbye, I think. To whoever found this, whoever found me. I'm sorry you had to see me like this. I left letters for some people on my bed. Tell them I love them, and she slumped down. None of us moved for several silent minutes, till I walked over to her body, took off her watch, seeing, for the first time, the hundreds of reminders she set. Breathe.